Okay, we have quite a turnout. Awesome. I'm so glad we have people coming in. I know we had a weird issue at the beginning, but I'm glad everyone is coming in and coming through. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so it's getting closer to that starting point. So we're going to start, and I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to do is, before I begin, I am going to be sending a PDF of this Zoom session in the chat box. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so right now, I just sent out 2 items in the chat box. One of them is a PDF. If you see that PDF, just double click on it and it will prompt to save to your computer, file, save as. And what this PDF is, it is going to be an exact replica of the PowerPoint that I'm going to be sharing out with you guys today. So all the videos and information that you're going to be seeing in this presentation can be found in this PDF. Another item that I just shared out is all my contact information. And what you're going to see is you're pretty much going to see just this little screenshot here of my contact information. And I circled the You Can Book Me link. And what that is, it's if you, in case you need some more one-on-one time after this presentation, I was unable to answer your questions, anything like that, you can click on this link and it'll open up my calendar and you can set some one-on-one time in case I was unable to answer your questions. All right, so let's get started. I'm so excited to have all of you here today. Okay, so this session is focused on the basics of Zoom, building Zoom user confidence. So real quick, my name is Mallory Alvarez. Nice to meet you. I work at the Teaching Learning Center at Palo Alto Community College. Interesting information about me is that I am a Palo Alto alumni. So born and raised south side of San Antonio. I taught high school English for 8 years, and I kind of made it full circle by going back to where it all started at Palo Alto. My contact information is listed, and this information will also be presented at the end of the PowerPoint. And of course, if you save that PDF that I sent out in the chat, you'll be able to have that saved, my contact information, in another form. So before I begin, I want to point out some of the norms. Everyone's microphone is going to be muted, just so that way we can kind of streamline this process. Please use the chat box if you have any questions. I have one of my team members here, Amanda Harris, who is going to be my co-host, and she will be answering some of those questions in the chat box, and any that she's unable to answer, I'm going to be viewing that chat box and I will be answering later on at the end of the presentation. So feel free to use that chat box, send out those questions, and you will find Amanda Harris responding to some of those questions. As stated before, questions will be addressed, and to please make sure your name is reflected in the Zoom meeting. So if you look at your thumbnail image and you see that your name is not on this thumbnail image of you on your screen, you can click Manage Participants and click on your name, and you'll be able to change your name so that way it's reflected. And the reason why we're asking that is so that way we can turn the attendance in to Alamo Talent. So we want to make sure that your name is reflected. And if you didn't sign up through Alamo Talent, that's fine. Everyone is welcome to this session, but we just ask that to make sure that your information is reflected in this Zoom meeting. And then overall, this Zoom meeting will be recorded. All right, moving on. So right here, I just have my agenda kind of mapped out for you. We're going to be focusing on these items for our session. Creating a Zoom meeting. I'm going to cover the host tools. I'm going to talk about preventing Zoom bombing, and then posting a Zoom meeting, and then of course, Zoom recordings. And that's going to focus on how to access your Zoom recordings, where to save them, where to download them, things like that. And then I've sectioned off a good 10 minutes of this session to just focus on any questions and answers for the meeting. So before I begin, I want to point everyone's attention towards this red, bold writing at the bottom of my presentation. So I was recently notified by district that they're going to start pushing enable waiting rooms for all Zoom meetings. So in Convocation today, you're probably going to come across a Zoom meeting where you're going to be put in a waiting room. And again, that's coming in from district. So if you're participating in a Zoom meeting, you're going to be put in a waiting room, and then the host is going to add you to their Zoom meeting. If you are hosting a Zoom meeting, what that means for you is that you are going to see this little pop-up sign. So if you're hosting a Zoom meeting, you're going to see this little image pop up, and it's going to state that person, Andy Sanchez, or the person's name, is waiting to be let into your Zoom meeting. And all you would have to do is click on admit that person. Or if that name is unfamiliar to your class roster, you can say, no, I don't know who this is. I'm going to select to remove. I'm not going to allow them in. So just a little FYI bit of information that just came down from district. All right, so putting our focus to creating a Zoom meeting. What I've done is I created a YouTube video that streamlines the whole process, so you don't have to wait for me to log on to a different screen. And what this YouTube video is going to cover, it's going to cover logging into Alamo Zoom, creating your Zoom meeting, and then suggestions on how you can set up this Zoom meeting. So real quick, what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be clicking on this link. Okay, please let me know if you cannot hear this video.
All I can see is a Google sign.
This is Tom Lawfer, and if there's supposed to be an audio with it, I am not hearing anything.
Okay, let me redo this. I am so sorry.
The purpose of this video is to walk you through creating a Zoom meeting. First, you want to navigate to Alamo Zoom.
Now got
the
it.
web address to do so is alamo.zoom.us. Once you click on this link, it's going to prompt you to sign in. After you sign in, you will simply click on Schedule a new meeting. Here you can put a title in for your Zoom meeting. If you are creating a Zoom meeting for one of your Canvas courses, I recommend putting the title of the Canvas course as the topic for your Zoom meeting. Description is very optional. You can leave this blank. Next, you have a section to set up when, duration, and time zone. I strongly recommend that you don't create a Zoom meeting with any specific date and time. I recommend that you select recurring meeting. And then the next option would be to select no fixed time. One of the great benefits of setting up your Zoom to be a recurring meeting with no fixed time is that it allows you more flexibility. When you share this meeting with your students, you can inform them in Canvas what day and time this Zoom meeting will occur. Your students have no idea that the Zoom link you posted is a recurring meeting. Another great reason why you should keep a Zoom meeting at no fixed time is that it allows you to make any adjustments on when you're able to meet with your students. If you did create a Zoom meeting with a fixed date and time, you would have to create a whole new Zoom link to reflect any new changes that needed to be made with your students in Canvas. As you scroll down, you will see that there are additional options available to you. When it comes to video, I always recommend that you start your meeting with your video off for both the host and the participants. Please keep in mind that these settings can be changed once the Zoom meeting starts. I just recommend that it's a lot easier to start off with the camera off. So that way it really gives you a chance to make sure you have everything set up and ready to go before you turn your webcam on. For audio, I recommend that you select both. What this does is it allows students to be able to listen in on your Zoom meeting through the computer audio or through the telephone. So in case there's an emergency and for some reason your student does not have access to internet, they can still dial in and listen to your Zoom meeting over the phone. They will be restricted to only being able to listen in. Now for meeting options, you have several things to choose from. One of them is Enable Join Before Host. I recommend selecting Enable Join Before Host. So that way you don't have any students in your Zoom meeting before you get there. Another great option you should select is Mute Participants Upon Entry. What this means is that anyone who joins in on your Zoom, their microphones would automatically be muted. This just guarantees that there will be no audio disruptions that will occur during your lecture. Again, please note that once your Zoom meeting has started, you can change this setting. The other option I would select is Record the meeting automatically. So that way you don't accidentally overlook and forget to record the lecture. When you start the Zoom meeting, you can pause the recording and then push play so that way you can decide when you want the recording to start. You also have the option of saving the recording on your local computer, which means when your Zoom session ends, the recording would be saved to your computer or desktop, or you have the option of selecting have the recording saved in the cloud. I recommend saving it in the cloud. The reason being is that you're able to go back and review any of your past recordings. And that way you can delete any recordings you don't need and download any that you want to keep to your computer so they can be uploaded later in MediaSite. If you have your recordings automatically saved to your computer, the file size of these recordings will definitely eat up any space that you have on your computer. Once you've made your selections, you would then click Save. Once you've clicked Save, you will now see the new meeting that you created listed here below.
Okay, so that recording that I made kind of went through logging into Alamo Zoom. Now, some instructors prefer to create their meetings within their Canvas course, and I didn't show that step simply because we have faculty and staff who are here, and some staff don't use Zoom within Canvas. There's no right or wrong. If it's a preference of you to do it within Canvas, you can follow the same steps. They should look very similar. But this video is getting everyone to start off by logging into Alamo Zoom. So again, if you haven't done so, I had sent out a PDF of this PowerPoint, and in that PDF, all the recordings that I have made can be found and replayed to be viewed later on. So that way, in case you might need a refresher. Okay, so the next section that I'm going to be focusing on is the host toolbar. I'm going to be covering just the basics. And if you look at my Zoom right here, I have an image of what that host toolbar will look like. So if you are in a Zoom meeting and the toolbar that you're looking at doesn't look like this, then that means you're listed as a participant and that you're not listed as a host. So again, this is what a host toolbar would look like. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be touching upon is the microphone. So all of you are going to see that you have a microphone and a video. And you know that these options are working or turned off. So if you see a red line dashed through, then that means it's shut off. So for this example, you can clearly see that the microphone is on and that there's a red line through the start video. So that means your camera is off. And if you ever want to change any of these options, you would simply click on them. And if you are the host, you can mute and unmute yourself. If you are the host, you can start your video and shut off your video. If you are a participant, sometimes a host will prevent the participants from being able to unmute themselves. And same thing with the start video. Another option on this toolbar is a security feature. Now, if you don't see this little icon that kind of looks like a shield, then that means you are not the host. Only the host or a co-host would have this option to click on the security bar. So if you are having a Zoom bomber, this is where you are going to click. You're going to click on this security feature, and what's going to happen is you are going to see this little icon pop up, and it's going to give you different options to choose from that can secure your meeting. Now, I'm not going to dive too much in this information just yet because it's going to be presented on in a couple of slides. So I'm not going to focus on the security feature yet, but there will be a Zoom bombing section in this presentation later on. So the next feature, and I know we got a lot of images on the screen here, but the next feature we are focusing on is the participants. So if you click on these little icons, it looks like two people standing next to each other. It's going to bring up this image right here that you see, and it's going to bring up a list of people who are participating in your Zoom meeting. Now, when I took the screenshot, I only had one other person who was participating. But as you can see, as the host, I would see a list of all their names. And it gives me an option to mute all or unmute all of my participants, all simultaneously. On this image over here, what I did was I clicked on the student's name. When you click on a participant's name as a host, you will be given more selections to choose from. And when you're given this little blue sign that says more, here you can see that you can make them a host, make them a co-host, or you can remove them from your Zoom meeting. So when you click on a person's name, you see this little blue icon appear called More, and it's going to allow you to either make them a host, put them in a waiting room, or if they're being disruptive, this is that feature that you're going to look for where you can remove them from your Zoom meeting. So again, this is covering manage participants. The next icon I'm going to focus on is the chat box. So it kind of looks like a little bubble. Some of you have already accessed it when you downloaded the PDF, or if you sent out a question to me or Amanda. And when you click on this chat box, it allows you to see everyone who is participating. So you have a section to type, and it also gives you the option to attach a file. So very similar to an email. If you are emailing someone, you would type the message, and then you would select, you want to send this email to everyone, you want to send this message to everyone. If you don't want to message everyone, you would click on this little arrow right here that I have highlighted, and what it would do, it would drop down everyone's name. So that way you are given the option to privately message one-on-one. If you wanted to attach a file, say you want to give your students a file or your coworkers a file, you would simply click onto the chat box, and then you would select this button right here, File. And when you click on File, what that does, it opens up to your computer, and then you can send any kind of document, any PowerPoint, PDF, or Word doc. If you wanted to simply share out like a YouTube video or a link, you would just copy and paste the link in the message and type the enter on your keyboard. So if you are trying to send a message in the chat, after you're done typing, you must click on the enter in your keyboard. Otherwise, it will not send. So those are some things you want to keep in mind whenever you are using the chat feature. All right, so moving on, the shared screen. So some really good information here. So when you click on that giant green button, this little arrow on the toolbar, you can share your screen. And what's going to happen is that it's going to pull up different options for you. Another thing I want you to focus on is this button right here called Share Computer Sound. Now, I guess in my nervousness, I had shared my computer without clicking this button. And that's why when I played my YouTube video, no one could hear anything. So you will come across this same problem with your students or your staff. If you're trying to play something and they're telling you, I don't hear anything, I don't hear anything, then you would need to stop your share and reshare again, click on the share button, and then you need to make sure you select Share Computer Sound. When you do share your computer, you're given different options. Now, when I took this screenshot, I had multiple files open. Now, what that means is if you plan on sharing a PowerPoint and then a Word doc and then a PDF, I highly recommend that you pull up these documents and then minimize them. And when you share the screen, all those minimized items at the bottom of your screen are going to be presented to you in the share screen option. So now I can choose to share this PowerPoint, or I can choose to share this PowerPoint. I can choose to share a web page, a Word doc, and then the screen. Your first option whenever you share your screen is the word screen. Please keep in mind that means your desktop. So anything that's going on your computer, the students can see. So if you have an email, if your email's going off and you're getting messages, your students are going to be able to see that. So just please keep that in mind when you decide which items you're going to share. If you decide to simply share one particular item, like a PowerPoint. If you decide all I want to do is share my PowerPoint, please keep in mind that if you decide to share a different PowerPoint, none of your participants are going to be able to see it because you've told Zoom that you're only sharing this one particular PowerPoint. So you need to go back and share screen and switch over to share a different item. If you are choosing to just share your screen, if you find that you're jumping around from PowerPoint to PowerPoint to YouTube video, I strongly recommend just to share your computer screen. So that way, anything that's going on, it can be seen without any kind of time delay of having to switch over to something different. So those are just some preferences. It's all up to you on how you would like to do this. So we're going to be moving on. So another feature that's available to you as a host is the record button. Now, if you set up your meetings to automatically record, you don't need to worry about clicking this button. But if you are deciding that, you know, I wasn't going to record this, but there's some really good information that's going on, so let's record. I'm going to click on this button here, and I'm going to ask that I record my session. When you click the record button, you're given two options. The first one is record to the computer or record to the cloud. And what that means, it's asking you, do you want to save this recording to your computer, or do you want to save this recording to the cloud, which you would then have to access through Alamo Zoom? And again, it's up to you on your preference and how you want to have this saved. So after you make your selection, then you would see that there's a little red light indicating that this session is recording. So just real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time right now to see if anyone has a question. So let me go back into the chat.
Hey, Mallory, there's one question I didn't know how to answer.
Yes, go ahead.
It was from William Vasquez, I believe, and he asked, do students have to set up a Zoom account ahead of time before they log on to the meeting? And I was not sure about that answer.
So good question. Your students do not have to set up an account ahead of time if they are using a laptop or a computer to view your Zoom meeting. If they're using an iPad or their cell phone, they're going to be prompted to download the Zoom app, because if they're going to be using it on their cell phone, they're going to have issues, and it's not going to allow them to open the Zoom meeting until they've downloaded the app. Now, that technically they're not opening a Zoom account. They're just downloading the app so that way they can view it. None of these students need to make an account to view your Zoom meeting. The only time Zoom will ask them to create an account if they are trying to host and create their own Zoom meetings. So if they're deciding that they're doing a group project and they want to create their own Zoom meetings, then they're going to have to, someone in the group is going to have to make their own Zoom account. Great question. Amanda, was there another one?
Let me check. There was a couple that came in. I'm kind of working on answering them. Joseph asked, and I haven't answered this one yet. He said, can we record when our students are minors, EX, early college, high school?
So when you record your Zoom meeting, I'm going to review the Zoom's, your record settings later on in this PowerPoint. But as long as you're just recording the person who is speaking and the items that are being shared, the students should not come out in the Zoom recording. So those little thumbnails that you can see each other? Well, those are called gallery view. So unless you are deciding to record the gallery view, those little thumbnails shouldn't appear in the recording. If you are making sure that only the speaker and the items that are being shared in the Zoom meeting are being recorded, then only the people who are talking and only the items that are being shared in the Zoom session are going to be recorded. So as long as no minors are speaking out during your Zoom session and it's just you that's doing the talking, then that's all that's going to be recorded. If you are trying to record students, you have to record the gallery view. But as long as your gallery view isn't being recorded, you're not going to really have to worry about that FERPA, and some of them are minors. I also saw a question where it says, can you download the participant list at the end of the meeting? And this was from Diana. And just so you know, in my advanced Zoom session, I'm going to be going over that, and there's going to be a section all about running Zoom reports. So just so you know, please go through Alamo Talent and sign on. And if you're unable to make that session, I'm going to be providing other sessions Monday and Tuesday at 4 p.m. And hopefully, I believe Ross is going to be adding those in Alamo Talent. And those are going to be Monday and Tuesday of next week. Was there any more, Amanda, that would need my attention before I move on?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you've gotten all of it.
Awesome. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Oh, wait,
Okay,
one more
so-
came in. Sorry, right as we were talking,
go
one more
ahead.
question. Rose asked if meeting ID identified to choose, what's the personal meeting ID for? Like
So
when you log into Zoom and it says your personal meeting ID is blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so I know like the meeting ID is just another way for students to join a meeting. Now that only really comes into play if they created their own Zoom account. Whenever you log into Alamo Zoom, the first thing it's going to ask you is to join a meeting, or do you want to go to your meetings? And if you ever click that join the meeting button, it's going to ask for the meeting ID. So that's available if you didn't get the Zoom link. And again, that only really just comes into play if a student has created their own Zoom account and they're logging in their Zoom account and they're joining a Zoom account after they've logged in to their own personal Zoom account. I know it sounds a little confusing, but that's, as far as my knowledge is concerned, that's the only time I've ever seen a meeting ID come into play. And those are usually auto-generated by Zoom. Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, hopefully that answered it, but I've never really seen a meeting ID come into play for students to access. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. So I covered recording, and now the last thing I'm gonna recover on the host toolbar is the end button. Now, when you click end, two options are going to appear. And again, this is if you're the host. If you are the host and you click this button, you're going to be given two options. The first one is end meeting for all, and the second one is leave meeting. Now, your Zoom session is not over until you click end meeting for all, and that's going to exit everybody out of the meeting. If you select to just leave the meeting, your Zoom session is still continuing without you. So think of it as you have your students in your classroom, and when you leave the meeting, that's like you left the classroom. You had to step outside for just a few seconds. Your students are still in the classroom. They're still going to be interacting with each other. And so nothing has officially been over. When you click end meeting for all, that's like telling all your students, okay, class is dismissed. Unless anyone has any questions, please send me an email. Have a great day, have a great weekend, class is over, and then everyone leaves your classroom. That's pretty much what end meeting for all is. So just keep that in mind. If you click just leave meeting, that meeting's still continuing. And if you are also recording your meeting, that recording is not going to stop until you click end meeting for all. So you don't want to get stuck with like a 3-hour recording of just students talking amongst themselves until they all decided to leave the Zoom meeting. So just make sure that when you end your Zoom meeting, that you click end meeting for all. Now, what I did was I created a YouTube link of that kind of covers all of the host tools. So everything that I just mentioned, the microphone, the security features, a chat box, all of these items here are explained again in this Zoom recording. So in that PDF, you can simply click on this YouTube video and you're going to hear a recap of everything that I shared live in this Zoom session. Okay, so I'm not going to play it because I'd be repeating myself, but feel free to click on this if you need a refresher. Okay, so moving on, the security feature. As promised, I said I would go into depth on the security feature. So I have a little YouTube recording that kind of streamlines and goes into detail of what that Zoom security feature is. And the reason why I want to play this recording is that way you can see these buttons being actively clicked on and being used in real time. So what this Zoom recording is going to cover, it's going to cover locking a meeting, what that is. It's going to recover removing a participant, and it's also going to cover how you can disable the chat, microphone, and video. So everything that you see in this image right here under security feature is going to be covered in this YouTube link. So I'm going to click on this. Right, here we go.
The purpose of this video is to cover the security features that are made available to you while you are hosting a Zoom meeting. So I will start my meeting by going to alamo.zoom.us. I will sign in and I will start my meeting.
The volume went away again.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that my volume was raised on my computer because I wanted to make sure that everyone could hear. So it sounded very low on my end. Okay. There we go.
The purpose of this video is to cover the security features that are made available to you while you are hosting a Zoom meeting. So I will start my meeting by going to alamo.zoom.us. I will sign in and I will start my meeting. Now that I've started my Zoom meeting, I can clearly see that I have one other participant who is in the Zoom meeting with me. Now, one of the major issues that have been occurring is Zoom bombing. So let's pretend that this participant that is in my Zoom meeting has begun to Zoom bomb me during my lecture. The first thing you want to do is to click on the security icon that is presented in your toolbar. If you do not see this icon here listed, then that means that you are not the host of the meeting. So whoever is hosting the meeting will have access to this security feature. So we're going to click on the security feature, and here we have a couple of things that we can do to kind of prevent or run a more secure Zoom session. The first thing you can do is you can click Enable Waiting Room. So you can make sure that anyone who is trying to join your Zoom meeting will be presented in a waiting room. So right here, when that occurs, as the host, you would see this message pop up. Student 1 has entered the waiting room for this meeting. See waiting rooms. You can click on this, and here you can see the person who is in the waiting room. Then you can choose to either admit them, allow them in the meeting, or to remove them. I'm pretending to be student 1 on my cell phone right now. So please keep in mind when your students join in on the Zoom meeting, more likely they're not going to present themselves as student 1, but they would present themselves with their first and last name. So here I'm going to choose to admit this person. And now they're able to join in on my Zoom session. Now, another great availability for you is that you can lock the meeting. So say all your students are present and accounted for, and no one else is going to be joining the meeting, you can lock the meeting. Another great way to think about this is if you are locking the door to your classroom. But please keep in mind that once you lock the meeting, no other participants will be able to join in. Another great feature that's available to you is that you can quickly prevent any of your participants from sharing their screen, and you can quickly prevent any of your participants from sending any chat messages to each other or out to the group. Now, the reason why both of these options are listed as a security precaution is because Zoom bombers are known for sharing obscene videos, and they would take over the screen share of a Zoom lecture. Another reason why you would want to prevent your participants from chatting to each other is that Zoom bombers are also known to send really offensive videos or images to those who are participating in the Zoom session through the chat feature. So that's why it's a preventive measure to block anyone from chatting or sharing their screen. If I had a Zoom bomber who was disrupting my Zoom session, I would go straight to the security button, then I would select remove participant, and here I would have a list of all the people that are participating in my Zoom, and then I can quickly select the Zoom bomber and click remove. Zoom will prompt by a follow-up question, are you sure you want to remove them? Student will not be able to rejoin the meeting, and then you would select remove. If you ever had to remove any participant from the Zoom session, I would then recommend locking the meeting, because Zoom bombers are known for trying to rejoin a Zoom session using multiple IDs and aliases. So just to recap, the purpose of this video was to give you an in-depth explanation on all the Zoom security features that can be made available to you if you are hosting a Zoom meeting.
Okay, awesome. So let me exit out of here. Get back. Let me scroll back to where we started. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, this YouTube video covered all of the security features that are available to you in case you are having issues with Zoom bombing. Now, usually it's pretty easy to figure out which one of the students is a Zoom bomber because they usually have like tag names, and it's also going to be a name on the managed participants when you want to remove someone. It's clearly going to be a name that's not reflected in your roster. Usually they're kind of like game names, you know, 101, interrupter, you know, things like that. So just keep that in mind when we're covering over, you know, trying to prevent Zoom bombing. Okay, so moving on. Now, share screen options for Zoom. Again, so whenever you want to share your screen, you're able to share many different applications in Zoom. And this was an image of some of the applications that I have available. So it just depends on what you've already pulled up and minimized on your screen. Now it's already kind of 1:43, and I really want to make sure that I'm able to answer any questions. So before I dive in on the share screen, Amanda, were there any questions about the security features in Zoom that need my attention?
You have perfect timing. It's just a quick question. Could you tell us more about the waiting room? I understand all students will enter the waiting room prior to beginning the meeting.
So I didn't really focus too much on the waiting rooms in this Zoom Basics. My advanced Zoom class is really going to give you some really great screenshots and some in-depth look on waiting rooms. But just know that because district is going to require everyone to either have a waiting room or a passcode, that's something that's going to be set up prior to the Zoom meeting occurring. So when you create your Zoom sessions, it's going to prompt you to either do a passcode or enable waiting rooms. But if you saw in the recording, it had that little feature pop up and it said you have students in waiting rooms. So that pretty much was like a live action of what waiting rooms is going to look like. So if your Zoom session starts, anyone who starts to join is going to be put in a waiting room. And so probably like the first 3 minutes of your Zoom session, hopefully not 3 minutes, but like the first minute of your Zoom session, you're going to be clicking admit student. So kind of like in that recording, that's what you would see as the host. Was there any more, Amanda? No? Okay.
No, you're good to go.
Awesome. Sweet. Like I said, if you have any questions, please use that chat box. Amanda or myself will try to answer all those questions. And if you're interested in that advanced Zoom class, feel free to register in Alamo Talent. I believe it's going to be on a Thursday. I don't remember what time. I think it's in the afternoon. I'm pretty sure it is. And if you're unable to make that session on Thursday, I'm going to have one available Monday and Tuesday at 4 p.m. And that's going to be this following Monday. So please keep that in mind if you're unable to make that Thursday session. Okay, so on the share screen, I kind of already talked about this and stated that any item that you want to share for your class, I strongly suggest you minimize it before the Zoom meeting starts. So when you do click that green button, Zoom can already notices everything that you already have open. So if you don't have a PowerPoint pulled up, you have to like still go into your file and click it open, then you're not going to see that PowerPoint listed here. But if you already have your PowerPoint open and then minimized, Zoom is going to register and be like, okay, I see that this person has like 3 different PowerPoints open. So I'm going to show all 3 as an option for the host to click on. And again, if you just choose to click screen, then that means you're going to see the whole screen. Right now, I have my screen being shared. So whenever you see me transition from my PowerPoint to YouTube, you see that live time. You see my desktop. If I were to minimize everything, you could see all my little icons and my images on my desktop because I'm sharing my screen right now. I also created a YouTube link that really talks about the shared screen, and it's pretty much just going to reiterate everything I've been stating verbally in this meeting. And again, I will be sure to share the PDF of this PowerPoint at the end of the presentation in the chat box, just in case someone wasn't able to download it. So that way you can go in and replay these YouTube links if you need a little refresher. So it can be almost like a great resource for you. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to focus on is going to be adding Zoom meetings. So a lot of people who are attending this Zoom session right now are faculty and staff. So for staff, you know, there's different ways you can go about this. You can send out your Zoom meeting link through email or inbox. And you can also, if you ever create like a calendar invite or meeting invitation, anywhere you can copy and paste, that's how you can send out your Zoom link. Now, I know Zoom promotes the ability for it to connect to our calendar automatically. Unfortunately, that does not apply to our Outlook because Alamo Outlook does not pay for the cloud services. So anytime you come across any software or program that says, oh, this connects to your Outlook calendar, unfortunately, that doesn't apply to us because district did not purchase the cloud aspect. So Zoom cannot automatically connect to a calendar. you're going to have to physically go in and copy and paste that Zoom link. Now, another way you could add Zoom meetings are, if you're an instructor, is through your Canvas. And I created a YouTube page on how you can copy and paste this information. You can use it through your home page, your syllabus, a page within a module, or an announcements. I do believe that this YouTube recording that I created starts with where you can gain access to share your meeting. I'm not going to play all of it. I'm only going to play the beginning portions of it, so that way you can see where on Alamo Zoom you can go and select that, share your Zoom meeting option. But again, feel free to play all of it through if you have a Canvas course, because I kind of walk through the different places in Canvas that you can add it. So let me push play.
The purpose of this video is to list some examples that are available to you in sharing your Zoom meeting with your students in Canvas. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log on to alamo.zoom.us. Then I'm going to select which meeting I would like to share in my Canvas course. Then the next item I want to do is copy invitation. When you copy the invitation, students will have access to more information on the Zoom meeting. They will also have access to some phone numbers that have been generated by Zoom, so in case they ever have issues with connecting online, they're able to dial in and listen to your Zoom session over the phone. Going to copy meeting invitation. Next, I'm going to log on to my Canvas course. Please keep in mind there are different ways and methods that instructors use to share their Zoom meeting with their students. There is no right or wrong way to go about this.
Okay, so I'm going to end that recording right here, because there's a lot of staff here who don't really need to go into depth on how to add it to a Canvas course. But I wanted to play out the beginning part of this recording so you can see where you're able to copy the meeting invitation. And again, I just pretty much logged on to my Alamo Zoom and I selected copy meeting invitation. Now, you're also able to, if you don't want to just copy all of that information, you're also able just to take your mouse and copy just the link. And that way you can just copy and paste the link and share this out, say in an email or a meeting invitation. The only reason why I would suggest to click copy invitation are for those instructors who may have students who are unable to log on to the internet, and then now they're going to miss out on hearing your Zoom session. So if you click copy invitation, you're given those phone numbers that the student can dial in and listen to. But if it's something just for a staff meeting or just sending a quick little email, feel free to just copy and paste the link. Either option is available to you, but I strongly suggest that if it's going to go into a Canvas course, that you copy the invitation so that way the students can really see other options available to them if they're struggling to connect online. So I'm going to stop this right here. Amanda, are there any questions that need to be addressed?
Yes, I think there's a good question from Ramon. He's just thinking ahead, but he says there's been lots of talk about storage for recording meetings being near capacity for the cloud. He said, if we try to record a lecture, will it let us know that the lecture will not be recorded before we start lecturing? So like there's not enough space for that lecture. I don't know, maybe you know that.
Well, I have a slide further down that's going to be focusing on recordings, so I'm not going to go too much into that because look, here you go. The very next slide is all about recordings, so this will be answered very shortly. But as far as I'm concerned, I have never come across anyone stating Zoom won't let me record my session. So when you click on the record button and it's designated to go in the cloud, I've never seen a warning saying popping up saying you can't add this to the cloud. If you do get that sign, then I would definitely go in and try to delete some of those items, or just simply switch the recording to be saved to your computer, and therefore you don't have to worry about the Zoom session not being recorded. But I'm going to play for you the first recording, and this recording breaks down how you can access your recordings, sharing your recordings to the cloud, from the cloud, and downloading your recordings from the cloud. Because as it was stated, we're very limited on cloud space. So that's what this first recording is going to cover. So click on this.
The purpose of this video is to walk you through how to access, share, and download any of your Zoom recordings. So first you're going to log into your alamo.zoom.us. After you are signing in, you will then see your profile page. Under the Meetings button, you will see the button labeled Recordings. Here you will see any and all recordings that have been saved to the cloud. So here are some recent recordings that I've had saved to the cloud. Now you're able to share any of your cloud recordings. You would simply go to the selected recording, you would click share, and here it will say share this recording publicly, and you would say copy share information to clipboard. Once it's copied, you will select done. Then you are able to go into your Canvas and post any important Zoom meetings to your students. You can choose to do this through an announcement or any other preferred method in your Zoom. Now here for this example, I'm going to title this Zoom recording covering Chapter 2. Click Save. And now my students can access this recording by clicking the link. Another option that's available to you is that you are able to download your recordings and save them for any future Canvas course. To go and delete some of these Zoom recordings. So before you delete these Zoom recordings, you may want to save them, download them to your computer to be used for any future Canvas course. So here's how you go about this. You would click on the Zoom recording that you want to save. You would select More, and then you would select Download File. Once you click this, you will see a MP4 begins to download to your computer. Once it's done, you can see that it's been saved. So you can click Download File, and then here you will see your file begins to download. Now, once you've downloaded your file, you can then select the Zoom recording and delete your recording. Zoom will prompt you with a follow-up question, and I'm going to say, yes, I want to delete this Zoom recording. Now, let's say you deleted the wrong Zoom recording. You can always click on this item right here labeled Trash, and when you do, you would see any recordings that you have deleted. And if this was an accident, you didn't mean to delete this one, you haven't had a chance to save it, you can simply select Recover. And then it'll prompt you with a follow-up question. Yes, I want to recover it. And now when you click on your recordings, the recording that you accidentally put in the trash has now been returned.
Okay, so that was the first part, which was just simply sharing a cloud recording, saving a cloud recording to your computer by downloading, and then deleting a recording. And of course, if it was accidentally deleted, recovering that deleted recording. Now this next YouTube link I created talks about saving downloaded recordings to MediaSite. Now, I know that's a big topic for a lot of instructors. You know, a lot of them come and ask for some consultation times because they're struggling with accessing MediaSite. But before I click on this, what I want to do is in the PDF, I put a link here. And what this link does, it's going to send you to a PDF And what this PDF does is that it walks you through accessing your media site. It's going to tell you what URL it is, and then it's going to say that when you click on this link, you're going to then click on what college, and then it's going to prompt you step by step on how to get access to your media site. Now, if you are logged onto your media site after you follow these steps, if you are still unable to upload a video, then you need to reach out to IT support, because someone on IT support needs to go into your account and click a few buttons. I don't know why that is, but some instructors are being told that, hey, I logged on to my media account, but it's not letting me upload anything. Why is that? If that's the message that you are receiving, that you're unable to upload any videos, then you need to contact IT support, and they should be able to fix that, those permission roles in your account. But I added this link because a lot of people are like, where do I go for MediaSite? I've never used MediaSite. How do I do that? So this link is going to bring you to a PDF, and this PDF is going to walk you through a whole bunch of great information on how to use MediaSite and set this up. So kind of going back here, I'm going to play this little YouTube link, and then after I'm done playing this YouTube link, I'm going to check in with Amanda on any questions that need to be clarified. So I'm going to play on this.
So I created this short little video to kind of walk you through this. So after you've logged into your media site, you want to click this button here that's called Add Media. When you click that, it gives you some options. You can either record your desktop, upload an existing desktop recording, or you want to upload a file from your computer. So this is what I'm going to select. So here's the Zoom recording that I downloaded. So I'm going to make this selection right here. I'm going to click Open. I can give it a title, give a more detailed description. I'm going to leave it as my drafts, and I'm going to click Create Presentation. And here, depending on how long the file is or the recording, depends on how long this takes to upload. So now it says that it's queued for processing. So it takes a very long time for it to finally be uploaded. Right now it still says it's currently working. When this finally uploads, you will have the option to check the recording by watching it in a new window, and then you'll have the option to share your presentation. Now, you can invite by email, or you can simply copy this link. But just so you know, anyone who gets this link will have to log into their media site in order to see this recording.
Okay, so I know that was a really very short recording, but what I wanted to point out is that the same steps that I kind of went
Now you're
through,
able to.
the same steps that I went through on this recording, where I clicked more and then I clicked download, save to my computer, that's the same steps you would take. So once you've downloaded your recording, then you can upload it to MediaSite. And again, you know, the video is probably a little bit more sense once you've gained access to your MediaSite account. So just keep that in mind. I had those two little short YouTube clips. So before I move on, Amanda, were there any questions?
I think our questions are more for the wrap up, but just so you have them in your mind, because I might have to hop off from my 2:15 session.
Yeah, of course.
Just in the back of your mind, a lot of questions are coming in just about how they're going to get the recording for this session, and then just resending that file again. But I know you already know that part. But just before you leave, everyone wants to know how to get this recording.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so very much, Amanda. Very helpful. So this kind of brings up the end of our Zoom meeting. What I'm going to do right now, a big thank you for Amanda for helping out. This could not have been possible without her. So what I'm going to do right now is to everyone in the meeting is I'm going to send a PDF of my Zoom basics. So I just put that in the chat box right now. So that way anyone who wants this PowerPoint can download the PDF. Also, I know that a lot of you are wondering, where can we access this recording? What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be saving this recording to our new TLC YouTube channel. We haven't gone public yet. We're still fine-tuning some things with marketing, but this is going to be presented in our YouTube channel. And it's going to be a YouTube link, and that's where we're hoping to save all of our recordings from our Zoom sessions for Convocation. If you are finding that, you know, because I can't give you a timeline yet, if you want to email me directly, I'll be more than happy to share that YouTube link. Again, my email information is posted in the PowerPoint, and if I click over again, here it is again presented for you. So feel free to email me if you have any questions, if you want to book some time with me, and of course, please save that PDF that I sent you. We seem to be going over time. I do apologize for that, but thank you all for coming here, being a part of this. It's 2:05. I actually have another Zoom session coming up in about 10 minutes. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. So it was really great. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you in my next Zoom session. Please feel free to reach out by email, and I will be sure to answer all of those questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mallory.
You're welcome. Getting some great love in the
Thank you,
chat. Thank you
Mallory.
all. You're welcome. I'll be seeing you guys shortly.